Welcome to Capitalizing Your Life, the podcast that shows you how to take control of your money, build lasting wealth, and create financial freedom using the infinite banking concept. If you're ready to make your cash flow work for you instead of someone else, you're in the right place. Here's your host, Glenn Yaney.
Today, my guest is Ryan D. Lee with Wealth Outside of Wall Street. Welcome, Ryan.
What is up, Glenn? It is a privilege. It is an honor to be here with you today, man. I think we could have recorded 2 podcasts because before we press record, we were having a good time jamming about finance and retiring and all this stuff. So, man, I'm excited to be here with you today.
Always love following your content and really the message you provide just because it's exactly my story. And it's like the best thing about podcasting and content is that I can listen to Alex Hermosi, I can listen to Ryan Pineda and these guys. And if they sat in a room with me, I would know it's hard to fake the personalities. And that's really the same thing with you. It's like, I feel like I know you well enough to sit in a room and have a full-on conversation. I'm excited to have you on.
Yeah, man. It is really interesting. The world that we live in today, to be able to tap into someone's expertise via podcasts or books or anything like that. I have often said, most of my breakthroughs in life have come from just listening to other people's perspectives. And then if you can go deeper with them, going from a podcast to a room, from a room to a collaboration, but just being able to listen to content is a pretty phenomenal way to upgrade and change your paradigm around what's possible.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend yesterday, had a little bit of we'll call arrival syndrome. But I asked him the question of, have you ever been so sure of something and found out later that you were wrong? And I try to remind myself that exact thing. There's things that I'm very sure of that I'm like, let me just try to stay as open as possible and maybe I'll have a better result,
Yeah. It is a delicate balance, right? It's a delicate balance between having a fundamental and absolute truth, but then being open to new information. And, I think there is a dance between that because, someone who doesn't stand for anything will fall for anything. And someone who bases their life on absolute fundamental truths and there's unwilling to look outside of that, their life is going to be very narrowly defined. And so it's this delicate balance of having a strong moral, ethical, value-driven foundation, but then also being open to considering new perspectives. Those new perspectives, you can reject them, you can use them to shape your current perspective, but having an elevated perspective allows you to see the world differently.
Yeah, so I was thinking as you were talking about, like, one of these ideas that I will stand by is that the one idea is that I am my most valuable asset. So if I stand by that rule, what can I surround with myself, whether it's my financial plan, whether it's my family and everything else around me? Like, what can I keep to that core as my family and really just my finances? How do I redirect all of that to myself,
I think I got that principle, that concept, that idea from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The very first part of that book was an internal transformation before any external manifestation. And it was looking inside and understanding that you are both the problem and the solution. And I think that's a pretty powerful perspective, right? Our world, exactly as we're living in today, is the result of the paradigms, the habits, the actions, the connections that we had 3, 4, 5 years ago that lead to the results that we have today. And, you can live in this moment right now and feel 2 things at the same time. Be satisfied with who you are and what you've accomplished, but also be dissatisfied knowing that you're capable of so much more. But the interesting part about that is the past, your current paradigm, won't get you to the future. That's this idea of upgrading your perspective because you only know what got you here. What got you here won't get you there. And so it's this constant progression of learning, expanding, growing, shedding off the past and stepping into the future you. And I love that adventure of life, right? I love that opportunity to realize that, man, I'm blissfully dissatisfied about my current situation, but man, I know I'm capable of so much more. And so how do I let go of what got me here to pick up what's going to get me there?
And also while it was like, whenever I put the blame on myself, I go through an inventory and figure out, how did I get to this position and how do I keep it from happening again? And really, that's the great value that we're able to create. Like, we find this problem and like if I have a problem with Ryan, I might not be able to fix Ryan's problem today, but I can fix my actions and the things that I've done up to this point. And that's the one beauty about like really putting full ownership in our lives.
and that's freedom.
Yep.
That is 100% freedom. In between whatever stimulus and your response, that's where your freedom lies. It's how you choose to react to any given situation. Because you're right. In the world that we live in today, there's a lot of things that we have no control over. And those things that we have no control over are going to impact our life. But with the right abundance mentality, I could look at that and say, how do I work with this? How does this serve me? How do I pick this up and adapt to my circumstances and move forward anyway? And I love that idea. It doesn't mean it's easy, but I do love that idea that we are the masters of our fate and the captains of our soul.
Awesome. So let's talk about your story and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I think you and I have a very similar background, right?
Yeah.
You know, I never really cared about school for the sake of going to school. I got poor grades. I dropped out of high school, went back and got a college degree. But I went through college with the intention of this is just what you do to be a responsible human being. And I'll never forget when I graduated college, it did feel kind of like a threshold in my life because I was a high school dropout. I got my GED. I got myself into college. And I got a 4-year degree in 2. And the only reason I did it in 2 years is, again, I didn't really care about being in college. I cared about what I thought that piece of paper was going to allow me to do with my life, relatively in terms of making money. And I remember when I got that first corporate job, I had to move my then new spouse from Utah, which I love, to Arizona. That was my first job. It was in Tucson, Arizona. And I remember showing up to Tucson, Arizona, had a boss named Rob, and I didn't want to be in Tucson, didn't necessarily want to work in the career that I was doing, but I knew that this was like at least what I thought I knew was this is the path of being a responsible, husband, future father. I want to be a provider for my family. And I remember when I got that first paycheck, right? It should have been a validating moment that I've done some hard things. I got that paycheck and it was really kind of a surreal moment for me. It was back when they gave you a paycheck in an envelope. And so I stuck it in my back pocket and I literally took it to the Bank of America to open it kind of ceremoniously because, man, I've got a corporate career now. And I remember when I opened that paycheck, I had to flip the check over a couple of times because I'm like, where's all the money? I mean, this cannot be what $32,000, don't laugh, but that was my first out of college salary. That was what it was. I'm like, this is not what $32,000 I thought would feel like.
Yeah.
And after all the taxes and deductions and insurance and moving expenses came out, I was left with less money than I was making as a hustler to pay my way through college. And I remember this little voice in the back of my head, it started to whisper, it started to chirp. It's like, hey, you should just quit now. But being a father now, or being a husband with a son on the way, I shoved that voice down. I'm like, dude, that's irresponsible. I've got to be a responsible, man. I've got to be a provider. And so I resolved right then and there that I was going to climb the corporate ladder and I was going to make more money. And so over the coming weeks, months, and really years, as I started climbing that corporate ladder, I started becoming more and more disenfranchised with my life. In the beginning, I was making more money and that felt good in the beginning, but every little thing, every little new dollar, it came with some trade-offs. And eventually I found myself trading a lot, right? I was trading my health and well-being. I was traveling a lot. I was trading my presence with my family. I was an absent father. And I kept telling myself, this is just what you got to do. I'm making more money. And somewhere along the line, I set a goal of, I'm going to retire early. I'm going to make as much as I can. I'm going to save and invest really well. And I'm just going to retire early. That's the game. I'm just going to bust through whatever it takes. I do into 65. I'm going to do it by the time I'm 50.
Yep.
And I remember that was the path I was on. In the beginning, it kind of felt like it was working in the moment because I remember my net worth, my 401k, my IRA, my brokerage account, those things were kind of going up. And I remember in 2007, right? 2007, my net worth crested $100,000. Now, I didn't know what that meant, but I felt like it was working. And in 2008, everyone has a 2008 story, and I'm so grateful for mine. I'm 5 years out of college at this point, in between 4 and 5 years out of college. And my net worth, it crashed, man. It crashed hard. I went from $100,000 down to $28,000. And I remember 2 things. At first, I felt super ashamed. I felt like I had done something wrong. Like somehow I made the wrong investments. Everyone else was smart. I was dumb. And I didn't want to talk about it that much. But as I started opening up and figuring out other people, they had lost a bunch of money. And that was my first indication that I was using a system that I had no control over. Here I am. I have a goal. I want to retire early. And I am making major trade-offs in my life. I mean, legit measurable trade-offs, thinking that if I save enough, work enough, sacrifice enough, I'll buy my life back. And for the first time, I realized that could just be a gamble. It probably is a gamble. I don't know how I lost money. I don't know how to stop it. And I don't know when it's going to happen again. And even though everyone was telling me just wait, it felt like I just lost 5 years of my life. That was lesson number 1, is no control. Lesson number 2 for me, Glenn, it was probably one of the more powerful ones. And I'm grateful again for this because I was looking at everything I had been trading up to that moment. And, I was looking into the future. The people I was modeling my life after, they were on their second, third marriage. They were overweight. They were
Mm.
stressed out. Many of them, were using alcohol or whatever just to kind of numb themselves through, this is just what you do, right? This is just what you do. And I remember I looked at them, and these are people 20, 30 years ahead of me, and it felt like I was looking into my future because their retirements broke down. I remember there were people crying. There were people literally sobbing because they couldn't see a way to retire. And for the first time, I understood what Einstein's definition of insanity was. I was doing the same thing they were doing, but yet somehow I was expecting a different result. And at that moment, things broke for me. I realized I can't keep playing this game, nor do I want to. If I'm going to make all of these trade-offs and that's going to be me 30 years from now, either I'm just going to opt out and I'm just going to spend all my money today, or I got to find a different path. So that was really how I got into the game of realizing that traditional finance, it wasn't going to be the pathway for me.
Awesome, man. I was putting about $50,000 into my 401k, including my wife's income, and she was probably making around 30,000. And the HR administrator person, I told her to put 75% of her pay into the 401k.
Dang, that's a lot, man.
HR is like, you're not going to receive a paycheck. And she's like, I know, my husband told me to do this.
Wow. My husband told me to put it all on red, man. Go for it.
Well, that's what we're told to do.
Yeah.
We were told to do it. It felt like the right thing to do. You hear about this financial independence, retire early, to put as much as you can in. Your savings rate, the more you save, the better you can get there. And I had the same thing. And the thing about what you were saying about your mentors and the people you were looking up to, and I think it's hard when you're new, like say when you just got out of college or in the process, it's like we don't know who to follow because everyone's kind of making more than us.
Yeah.
Like we're at 30,000, the guy next to us is making 60,000. We're like, let's follow his advice.
Yeah.
And then you get to that, you get to that 60,000 and you're like, really, is this all what it's about? And then you follow that guy that's like maybe at a 120. And then it's like, we're kind of going down this road that it might be, who knows? That's why it's so important to get into, my opinion, like masterminds and these things to, you can kind of follow a better North Star kind of thing. Like, okay, this guy's probably 20 steps ahead of me and there's guys that are 3 to 5 steps ahead of me. Like, which guy am I following? But I have the full on North Star. And that's really what I started understanding is that the guys that, like, if I had the capital, I would buy that, but I never had the capital. Why was that? Why do I have so much money in my 401k? Why am I leading my dollars into taking care of somebody else's dreams, So like, anyways.
You hit the nail right on the head. And here's kind of the pivotal thing that I think people, at least to help me, right? I mean, being in a mastermind, oftentimes you can find a person who's actually done the thing that you want to do.
Exactly.
Right. And that you're following results, not hope. In the retirement world, it's the blind leading the blind, right? I mean, everyone's doing it, so you should too. But there's very few, if any, real success stories of people who really did it in a big way. They retired early. They're living abundantly. They're not stressed out of their mind. They're not worried about taxes. Like, there's very few real case studies of people who have actually followed the model and won. And so that's really, for me, what I was looking for. I thought I was following a model because it's just the thing I knew. Everyone was doing it. And then when that model started breaking for me and I looked up and I'm like, holy crap, it's broken for everyone else too. That's when I really kind of had a midlife, early on in my life, but I had a crisis. I'm like, what the heck, man? I'm trading everything for this. And I'm not going to make these trades if it's not going to work. Show me the proof. Show me that it actually works. And I think that's the big difference, right? And I don't know if it's nefarious. I believe it is from the top, but not in the middle. I don't believe most financial advisors are bad people.
No.
But the reality of it is Wall Street, they want us dependent. They want us in a game. We become a pawn in their game. Right? If we're just told if we just hand them our money and they do what they do over 30, 40, 50, if we really think about it, 60 years, that one day we'll have enough money. But here's the problem. No one knows what that number is. No one is ever taught how much money they have to have enough to give them the income that they want at a desired point in their life. And that's really the fundamental question. But it's the one question Wall Street refuses to acknowledge or answer or even help people think about it. And the reason for that, it overshadows the mathematics beneath it. And when you understand the math behind retirement income using Wall Street, you realize why Robert Kiyosaki said savers are losers. You're playing a game where you are going to lose the majority of your life and you'll never have enough money to retire the way you want. And man, once I really understood how to put all of this together, I'm kind of a all in, all out type of guy. And once I realized it wasn't going to work, I was done completely. Now that open up a door of possibility, done, and then what's next. But it's also kind of a dangerous world, man. I mean, if you realize that Wall Street and the system that everyone's following, you realize the game that people are actually losing is the game of life. And the reason I say that, money is just a receipt for time. And people trade too much time, way too much time, for far too little financial results, both on income, but especially on retirement planning.
Hey guys, if you'd like to learn more about the infinite banking concept and how to flow your capital through your own financing system, my team and I are here to help. With over 35 years of experience, we can guide you in building a properly structured whole life policy tailored to you and your family. See the scheduling link below. Now, back to the show. Yeah, that's my favorite part is that like I try to think to myself, like if I could try to teach people how, that they're excited for the weekends, but I'm excited for Monday. Like when Monday's coming around, I'm like, let's go. Let's do this. What problem am I going to solve today? And, it becomes but I can tell you, I've been in the cubicles, and not that the cubicle is a bad place, but it's just like, really, it's when I have to start asking for permission to go to, vacation, and then I get denied that vacation time, or I've been working 7 days a week, and then I have the guilt trip of taking a day off, or, and there's a time in my life, in my opinion, that I had to do that. But at the same time, it was like, whose dream am I building right now is really what it came down to. And
totally.
And really, when I use my dollars, like if I'm aiming for financial independence and I'm giving my dollars to somebody else, like, is this aligned with my incentives? Is this like the thing that's going to empower me to be better in the future? Like, am I heading towards $1 million a year, or am I trying to drive my income down to not have to pay taxes, So as in like, like if I put my money in a 401k, the plan is to make less when I'm in retirement, which sounds like a terrible plan. Like I don't want to try to create a business plan that I'm making less in the future,
Totally agree. Yep, totally agree. And you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. If you can get people really with a North Star, and they can define what it is they actually want and when they want it, not just this arbitrary idea one day, then you can back your way into financial products, systems, tools that actually make that possible.
Yep.
But it gives you a lens to look through to say, is a 401k the right thing for me if this is what I want? Is a brokerage account, is real estate, is infinite banking, whatever it is, fill in the blank. These are just tools. But until you're clear on what you want, like every tool is irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter until you know what you want and when you want to buy. So I think that's the one thing. If people can just start thinking about their life in terms of, look, man, I've got one shot at this thing. Money's just a tool. It's a tool to build and live a life that matters. So what do I want and when do I want it? Then it starts to give you clarity and urgency with the dollars that are in your life today.
Yeah. So we're going to bring up your new book just while we're talking about it. And it's
Let's go.
Retire in 10 years or Less. Has a Robert Kiyosaki as the forward. I think it's awesome.
Thank
and
you.
I can tell you the crazy part about it is I read it, and I don't know exactly how much of the book, but I would say it's like the first 50% of the book is all on mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing on mindset and how do we fix it? Like the Market Watch articles, all these big name media companies, all these are looking for advertisement dollars and really just trying to keep you reading and reading for, what their advertisers want. And I think that with this mindset thing to focus on ourselves as in the asset and then how to build that out. And then also back to how we retire in 10 years is always something I've always said, but I love the book is literally exactly what I would suggest as well, for sure.
I appreciate that, Glenn. That means a lot. I think you and I have very, very similar lived experience.
Yeah.
And what I've found in the world of money is almost anyone in the game of money is trying to sell you a product, right? And products are tools. They're not good or bad. It comes back to what do you want? When do you want to buy? And in most cases, no single product will ever get you there. It's a system. And if we really think about money, there's a few different mindsets. There's a few different categories of money that we have to master. And you've already nailed it. Category number one, the biggest driver, the fastest driver for your financial freedom is your income. It's your ability to use your unique talents to solve problems, create value, and make money. But anyone who just focuses solely on making money, we've met a lot of those people, right? They're making money, but they're broke as a joke. They're one paycheck away. They're one launch away. They've got a little bit of money and they don't know what to do after that. And it becomes a crutch for them. So the second part of this is actually keeping some of or as much of the money that you have made as possible. Right? There's, for most people, a monumental gap between what they make and what they keep.
Yep.
There's all of these money leaks. I mean, think about it. Our entire society, our entire society is built to take the money that you've made. And some of it's necessary, right? Yeah, you need a place to live. You need to put food on the table. But until you know what you want, your dollars have no context and meaning. And money comes in and it comes out of your life. It has never been easier to spend money than it is today. I mean, with one click of a button on your phone, you can have a package delivered to your doorstep. And I bet you half of the package is delivered to your doorstep. By the time it arrives, you forgot what you ordered, right?
Yeah.
And so it's making money and keeping money. And there's a lot that goes with that, from taxes to, empowered spending, all of that. But making and keeping money. And then the third category is it's having the mindset to be an investor. And words matter. And I believe Wall Street has hijacked the word of investing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we just looked up the definition, and we all kind of know this, but it's so funny. I mean, people have such a disconnect on this. Like when you hear Warren Buffett say the 2 rules of investing are what? Rule number 1, don't lose money. And rule number 2 is don't forget rule number 1. Everyone knows that quote. And the real technical definition for investing is parting with capital. And again, capital is something you've already traded your time for. So parting with capital with the expectation of safety of principal.
Yep.
And an adequate return in the form of interest, dividends, or rent. That's the definition of investing. So now go think about all of the last 5 or 10 places where you've put your money as you're listening to this podcast right now, guys. Because the definition of speculation, and think about that, right? When you've got money that's come into your life and you turn around to your spouse, like if I went to my wife and said, hey, honey, I've got $100,000. I traded a lot of time for it. We sacrificed a lot. And I'm going to go speculate this in the hopes that we'll retire one day. I mean, that word just feels dirty coming out of your mouth, right? You might as well go to Vegas. But the definition of speculating is parting with capital with the hope of a future resale value. That's all it is.
Yep.
Yet most people believe, and they use the word I'm investing when they're actually speculating. That's the game of Wall Street. And so, if we can understand that money's a tool, it's making money, keeping money, and becoming an investor, not a speculator. You put those 3 mindsets together and anything is possible for you.
Yeah, going back to the words. So this is the thing that kind of changed my mindset. There's a few things that happened in my life at the same time, but I was, gung-ho on index investing. But the one thing that I was telling myself, and I didn't play this through, is that if you invest in the market, it'll be up and to the right, is really the story that you hear. It's like, it's always, capitalism wins, efficient markets, you put your money in the S&P 500. And then I thought to myself, well, back in, we have our 2008 stories. Back then, it was like, the story was that real estate always goes up. And it's like, and that was the word always. So does it always go up? No, it doesn't always go up. Does the stock market always go up? And then the question after that is it going to be where I want it to be when I need it? So when we find these mentors, I'm like asking them, how much money do you have in your 401k? How much do you have in the stock market? And I could tell you the 3 guys that I was following had about 2,000 units, 600 units, and another guy with 20 units. So there's different tiers. And all 3 of them had no money in the stock market because their area of expertise was real estate. Like they were focusing on buying good deals. And when I like to follow even, obviously bigger people like Elon Musk, you see Jeff Bezos, seeing what they're doing. And I can tell you when they're making decisions, I mean, yeah, there's some stuff that might look speculative, but they're having measured cost to get to that point. So they're like, okay, we're not going to find the most efficient way, but this is the North Star. This is where we're going. And then as they're starting to learn, they find the better route to get to where they're going. And really, that's, for me, back to our original conversation about investing in ourselves, seeing where the problem is, blaming ourselves for this problem, and figuring out how to fix it from there. That's what I think the wealthy mindset is like, how do we figure out where the problem is? Now let's figure out a way to stop that problem from happening and then continue to keep moving forward. And that's really, for me, I've had some recent experiences, and it's a weekly experience. Like something messed up will happen and I'll be like, how do I keep this from happening again?
Well,
so
you hit the nail on the head. I think it's important. Let's break it down just a little bit, because if we really go back and we truly want to use those words, investing and speculating, right? So investing is buying an asset that has some safety and principal guarantees inside of it. We're not actually investing when we put our money in the market. There is no asset behind it. We don't even actually own the stock in most cases. We're in a mutual fund, right? And so you're speculating. And I'm not saying that speculating is bad. Like if we go to Elon Musk, right, you can speculate, and you probably should speculate on top of a foundation of investing, on top of a foundation of financial freedom, because speculating can have a tremendous asymmetric upside, right? If you speculate the right direction,
If I
speculation.
could cut you off right there, if you could tell me what part you think Elon Musk is speculating on, though.
Oh, no, you're totally right. I don't actually know what Elon
Yeah.
Musk is investing in. I have no idea what he invests in. But,
Speculating the short-term plan, but they have he has this plan to go to Mars.
okay, yeah, he's building a business plan. So that's
He's totally creating all these businesses to go to the North Star, which is Mars.
totally. So all I'm saying is you can and should speculate
Yeah.
on top of a foundation of financial freedom. But to mess up those definitions when you're trying to achieve financial freedom, like if you could just, like if you pick up the book, I mean, if you invest for 10 years straight, just become an investor, which means don't lose money,
Yeah.
buy real assets, have some safety behind you.
Yep.
In your home value, like in the analysis where real estate goes down, yeah, it does, but you own an asset.
Yeah.
It's not that it always goes up, but the benefit of owning an asset is it has real value. It's intrinsic, meaning everyone needs a place to live. And it's not just the value of the house. It's the tax advantages. It's the cash flow. It's the amortization. There's multiple profit centers baked in. So that is real investing, is owning assets that have real value that protect your principal. Whereas if I put my money in the stock market, it is truly a speculation. And again,
Yes.
just knowing that, that's one further level of empowerment to say, do I want to speculate my retirement or do I want to become financially free by being an investor? And then once I have that foundation, honestly, man, right now, I own some Bitcoin. But I never would have said Bitcoin is my pathway to financial freedom back in the day. But right now, it's a speculation. If it goes up or down, I win or lose. But even if it went to zero, it doesn't affect my ability to be financially free because everything was built on investments.
Yeah.
And that is a speculation.
If you think because real estate is a business, so you got to look at it as if I'm buying a single family home, if you're buying it based on the values going up, but you're not focused on anything like cash flow or anything like that, it's like that, in my opinion, would be considered a speculation.
Totally.
So when you're buying like a duplex or I like to buy mobile home parks, we focus on the cash flow.
Mhm.
And what ends up happening is that the cap rates are navigating the purchase price or the exit price as well. And what I can tell you is that idea didn't come to me on the first day of changing my mind towards cash flow.
Totally.
But what I would say is that if we're putting our money into a speculative asset, like you're saying, and then we're having a plan to unwind this idea for cash flow, when do you want to start learning about cash flow? Do you want to learn about it in 10 years from now when you're trying to unwind it? Or do you want to try to start learning about cash flows today and how to keep the cash flow and also de-risking your own personal income? Because if I have this, I had a lot of problems last year. I had 2 hurricanes hit me in 2024, my personal house and the second one was on our real estate properties. And the Hurricane Milton hit both of my 2 properties that I own personally, no other partners. So 100% of the expenses were on me and 100% of the lost rent was on me. So where I was going with that is just like the one thing that saved me, which where I was going, is I have all these promissory notes somewhere else. It's promissory notes that are paying me, whether the deal's making money or not, I'm getting paid. And that's the one thing that kept me out of trouble is like I have cash flow. And to me, my promissory notes is like my bond portfolio, which not exactly the same risks, but I kind of manage the risk myself. But it's the real estate, equity in the real estate and all that is more of like my stock, my equity aspect of my portfolio where I'm receiving income from that and the income could shut off. It's like if you have a big CapEx project that goes underfunded, but this is what I've been learning since 2013. These are all lessons that I've learned up to this point. And if I didn't have these lessons being learned, say I want to unwind this when I'm 65, not the real estate, but say a stock portfolio. Do you want to start learning about what happens when you overspend on a CapEx project and you don't have any income and you're not working?
Well, you're hitting the nail right on the head. I think if people wanted to if they wanted to take one thing from the show and one thing to improve their financial investing, not speculating, start measuring success based on income. That's it.
100%.
Like if you start evaluating where you put your money based on how much income that thing will deliver, how predictable that source of income is, how it rises or doesn't with inflation and what its tax consequences are. If you just start looking at the game of putting your money in places based on that being the metric for success, the entire game of money will change for you. Who cares what the rate of return is? Who cares what your net worth is? Those are secondary, tertiary things after you understand how cash flow works.
Yeah. The reason why I bring up the hurricane story so often is we all had those hurricane stories. Like it's a different story. It's totally like,
totally. That's life.
This was a tough year, but at the same time, we got through it.
Yeah.
Guess what? The income shored up. We're in a better position. We figured out stopping the leaks in our system, talking about what we're talking about, and really getting closer with more mentors to learn. And for me, when I become vulnerable, I'm able to be helped. If I'm like the person that no problems are happening, even though I'm in a storm, those are the people that you're like, well, I can't really help those people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So
I love that.
awesome. Well, like I said, we could just talk about your book for however long you want, but like, what are some things that you'd like to point out, and who's the person that should be reading this book?
Yeah, man. In that book, I think the fundamental principle, and we kind of hit on this in the beginning, I'm looking for people who want more ownership over their life.
Yeah.
I'm looking for people who have generally been winners in almost every other category of their life. They're good parents. They're physically fit generally. They're spiritual. They've been winners, right? Because they have elements of their life that they understand. When I take control, I feel better. I get these outcomes. But for whatever reason, they've never been able to win with money. And most of the people that I end up working with, they've already saved money. They've already tried alternative investing. They've already tried a couple of different things. And the pursuit of financial freedom feels so arbitrary and so out of their control that they've almost given up hope that it's even possible. That's who I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who, with the right system and the right discipline, can absolutely master money and use money to master their life. Because I really believe money's greatest intrinsic value is it gives you more control over your time and more options with what you do with that time. So if that sounds like something for you, if you're looking for a system, there's IBC in there, there's real estate in there, there's mindset in there, there's tax strategy in there, there's liquidity.
Yep.
Like all the tactics are in there, but those tactics are meaningless unless you're willing to rise up, take control of your money, and build and operate a system that will buy your life back in 10 years or less. Those type of people, man, I love working with them. I love empowering them. I love watching their life go from predetermined to self-determined, because now they understand how to master their money.
Yep.
And they can use that money as a tool to really start to accelerate their pathway to financial freedom. And, I used the word retire in the title because I wanted to meet more people where they're at. I mean, everyone understands the concept of retirement, but I don't believe in that. I don't really believe in the idea of retirement. I believe, you get to a point of financial freedom and then you might retire from the life you have today, right? You might walk away from a job or the cubicle like you and I did, but you're going to retire to a life that's more purpose-driven. And in almost every case I've found, people get more productive. They work harder oftentimes because they're doing something that lights them up. And so that's honestly, Glenn, anyone who's looking for more control and wants to understand a framework for how the economy works and how to win. And I hesitate saying this sometimes, but it's how to win automatically. It's just a matter of positioning your money with the rules of how the current economy is set up. And everything on Wall Street, it positions those rules of our economy against you. It makes it so much harder for you to ever gain any traction. And once you could see the game for what it is, it's honestly really easy to win.
Yeah, the idea is just to be able to keep playing. We all, it's like we take our licks or whatever, and it's like we're able to continue to keep playing. And the one thing that you said at the very beginning was that you were saying, if you're like, you're killing it in business, your health and all these things. And I actually, I was making $150,000 a year, but I was, 30 pounds overweight, and I had all these things happening. And really what I can tell you is that with the money problem, it's like, if I can't fix this one area, it kind of hurts every area of my life.
Totally.
So like my health is being hurt. I'm freaking stressed out and working long hours. And yeah, there's times where you have to work long hours, but at the same time, it's like we have to have this full life with me going to gymnastics, my little girl's gymnastics at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Pretty inconvenient time, but I do it on principle. I'm like, I am so busy right now, but what else am I going to do? I'd rather do this.
Yeah.
And that's why I got into being financially independent and focusing on cash flow and really being my own boss. But I can tell you that when I was working and making, I was making $150,000 a year. My wife's stay-at-home mom. Things were good, pretty stable. It's like, but what else am I missing in my life? And it's like, what happens when if I'm working like this for 20 years, I'm going to be dead in 20 years. Like there's no chance, because I was working so hard that it was like, there's no chance I'm going to be able to be healthy. And I think that that's also the thing that happens is like, we get back our time. We create ownership. Like I look forward to having this podcast with Ryan today, and I'm able to maybe go to the gym after this, So it's like, these are the things that we're trying to create for other people. And it really comes down to just small little decisions that we make regularly and then creating a system for that.
Glenn, you just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You're one choice away. You are one decision away, no matter where you're at right now.
Yep.
You're one decision away from a radically different life. And what got you here won't get you there. So why don't you decide something new? Decide something new. Decide to become the master of your money. We call it a CEO of the money or an empire builder in our community. But listen, you get one shot at this thing called life. Your daughter, Glenn, she's only going to be in gymnastics at whatever age she is once.
Yep.
Once. Build a life that gives you control over your time. Money is such a critically important part of this. And if you're lying to yourself telling you money doesn't matter, it does. It's not that it matters for the sake of having more money. It matters for the sake of you having more options. It does matter. And no one's going to save you. The schools aren't going to save you. The Wall Street isn't going to save you. CNN's not going to save you. All the financial pundits out there trying to sell you some, crazy thing. That's not going to save you. Only you can save you. And it does start with that mentality that for the first time ever, you have to raise your financial IQ. Money is only a tool. Raise your financial IQ, understand how to use that tool, and build something that you're proud of. That's what I'd say about the book.
Awesome, man. So where can people find you?
Well, Glenn, I appreciate you having me on this podcast. If you found any value in anything I've shared, I'd encourage you to pick up the book. That is, the best part about that is whenever you read a book, and I've found this out from lived experience, whenever you read someone's book, if it is a real book, not written by AI as a marketing tool, it represents a decade of their life. That book is my journal. Yeah. It represents 15 years of my lived experience. And if you want to see what I've been up to for the last 15 years and how I've used money in my life and helped other people as well, go to retireintenyears.com. Retireintenyears.com. We give away the book for free. You can get the Audible book. You can get a PDF book, but buy the playbook. Get the actual physical copy like Glenn has. But man, we'll do anything we can to help you see a new possibility for your life. And then it's up to you to decide to take it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you for listening to the Capitalizing Your Life podcast. Please rate, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with someone who you think would enjoy listening.